There's a good deal of pressure on me in Tacoma, despite evidence that I either have developed Parkinson's or am suffering from neurological exhaustion leading to complications and injury. To continue to address the um, strange private prison system that Carnegie Mellon University Forces and UW Dialectical helped Yoko Ono and Midori Goto build with Sony. From the time I was attacked by a group that included elements of both the British and the Russian Secret Service, organized by Israel, beginning in childhood. And unsurprisingly, these concentrate on bizarre ideas about my personal sexual identity. It should be pointed out that abortion is legal in Russia. Um, John Lennon, as you know from my writings and research, was sent to ease America's descent back into slavery. The intention was to create liberation into trafficking. And the so-called counter-revolution were Beatles comfort people, and I was a comfort person. I was a child who was brutally tortured by Israeli and Japanese interests, working for a snuff film industry known as Hollywood. So what you see in my situation is predictably a police prerogative. When the police kill somebody, even when it's caught on an iPhone, they usually get away because of what James Child called a police prerogative. They applied the police prerogative to a fallen girl who chased me up a tree trying to get away from her, claiming that the reason I didn't want to be exhibiting to her in a park was because my member was small. She was given status as having been used by me in order to create um, a humanized idea of the outer limits to amuse Roger Waters and Peter Gabriel. So you will notice that when I turned to Midori after having been used in an two Holocaust simulation experiments, I was asking for a humanized vision of person to person Congress in the hopes that we might be able to come up with some way to resist the intrigue that was justifying um, a blatant attack on my generation. That she would have nothing to do with that because she was behind the attack. They foresaw who I would turn to because they knew that John Lennon had played a double agency role, created a double fantasy. He had advocated for the idea of liberation into being trafficked, liberation into slavery. A terrific idea from British Orwellians who then evacuated him. And, Mike Pompey says that we're not at Armageddon. Well, his name was Pompey, was like the Pompeii volcano. The people, Joel Kaplan, who was one of the people who was running the operation to criminalize trying to get help for having been tortured by Wattenmaker, was involved in the escalation by the outlaw oligarchs. In other words, an American citizens group made a nuclear threat on the United States and are getting away with it with this bizarre um, operation of an ideological place station that they have built in Tacoma. And they've configured everything to numerology and typos, and they spin cycle numbers to indicate dates, years, ages, and so forth that are agreed upon in their incredibly deranged symposium. So we're dealing with symbols that existed from era when the planning stages identified that if James Curry follows the logic of John Lennon, he will turn to Midori Goto turn to the rock to hide his face, and the rock will cry out, "No hiding place." So, and of course, for them, pornography is the absolute evil. And they say, oh, he dreams of, and they have, um, religious military extremists saying that John Lennon was a religious military extremist, and thou shalt not deviate from the covenant, and so on. I mean, it's a bizarre situation of the outer limits, posing as a humanization of the outer limits, an ideological PlayStation they built as a private prison in the state of Washington, city of Tacoma, but it goes across state lines. If I was living in New York, Yoko Ono would still be able to get away with this. Maduro Goto would still be able to get away with this. And they're just daring me to say something negative about the women initial TV. It's a bizarre economic from people who pose as extreme angry fathers of the religious right. I mean, it's obviously transnational. It goes across Eurasia. I mean, it's like the mom and dad scene that um, you know. He, Pin says that he doesn't mind homosexuals, but why provoke them? I don't want to say he's talking about himself, but I don't want to provoke. What's the point of provoking? I mean, it's all set up. The principal of Lecce said to me when I went to a city hall meeting, he didn't um, say anything to me, but he said, "Oh, I was trying to get your attention." What they're really doing is they're setting me up as a prop and trying to get the attention of the bad guys. Hey, take a look at this. Take a look at this sissy worm. Take a look. He doesn't forgive, so he's not going to be forgiven. Hey, ooh, la, 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 ooh, la, 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 la. And it's been going on for a long time. I was being used as a pornographic object lesson by the assassins and the outlaw ligatures.